Welcome everyone to the Proven Knowledge Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Church. I'm a music producer from Northeast Ohio. I began this weekly interview series to give you different perspectives from artists, producers, engineers, and other individuals in the music industry. In each episode, we touch on not only what has helped the person succeed, but we also touch on what has shaped them into the person that they are today. I hope you're able to gain some real proven knowledge from the show, and that it helps elevate you on your own journey to success as well. Let's get into it. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 254 here on the Proven Knowledge Podcast. Today I welcomed a South Carolina-based artist and producer. His name is Christou DaKeeng. Christou was introduced to me through Dom. Obviously, Dom has connected me with amazing artists over the last few months. You guys have heard me mention him a million times, but I got to keep shouting him out because he keeps sending me amazing individuals. And today was no different because my conversation with Christou was really awesome. He talked about his early upbringings in the church, performing at a young age, really just being involved in arts for a long time. He talked about initially wanting to get into animation, but pretty much just sticking with artistry, being a musician. He learned to songwrite through poetry. He talked about being able to blend different styles, such as singing and rapping together, and some of the artists that helped inspired him along the way. But overall, just where he aims to go from here. He's put out a lot of great music recently, dropping singles every month this year, which is going to eventually lead up to a new album. And I love just the words of inspiration, words of wisdom he gave towards the end as well, about just, keep on moving through the ups and downs. No matter what life throws at you, you got to be prepared for whatever it is, you know what I mean? And not be too hard on yourself in the process, which is something I know we all can relate to in our own ways. So shout out to Christou for, like I said, coming on by, dropping some amazing wisdom on everyone, and just really making great music. So definitely go check out all the things he has going on. And without further ado, let's get into this one. All right, so welcome everyone to episode 254 here on the Proven Knowledge Podcast. Today we have a South Carolina-based artist, producer, another great artist that Dom got me in touch with a few weeks back. Christou DaKeeng, how you doing, man?
Hey, I'm good. How you doing, Anthony? I appreciate you for having me here.
Yeah, absolutely, man, and thanks again for taking time out today on the weekend to join me. We usually have the guest give some background to kick things off. How did you initially get into music? Like, kind of what led you to being an artist in the first place?
Yeah, man. So, I'm born and raised in South Carolina. So, we have a lot of roots here as far as family. And just as far back as my lineage goes, we've been involved with music. And so my mom and my dad both sing, and they've been singers in the church. And they were modest with it. They didn't, turn it into a career or anything like that. But they definitely, did a great job singing. And so my mom just brought me up singing since I've been like 3 years old. She brought me in front of a large church congregation. And, from that point, I just was recognized as the kid that, had the voice, So from that point, I actually didn't want to be a singer when I was a kid. I guess I just did it so much, it was kind of like how Michael Jackson grew up. Like, I did it so much that it was just like another job to me. Like, it really wasn't like, something I actually wanted to do, because I could also draw. So I wanted to be in the arts. I wanted to be an animator. And so my journey kind of took me there, throughout my childhood. And so eventually I went to a small high school, so I didn't have a lot of people that like helped me with decisions about colleges and things like that. So it wasn't a lot of information on like animation and things like that. So I did band. I was active on the chorus, the technical crew, like everything with stage. I played The Lion and the Wizard of Oz when I was in like 8th grade. So I stayed in the environment of entertainment and arts. And so by the time I got 12, that was the first time I ever had the interest to write a song. My mom was also like an awarded poet. So she's won a lot of poetry contests and did things like that. So, I always admired that about her. And so I started doing poetry around that age. And then I just like started to correlate how it went alongside songwriting. And so I just took my hand at songwriting. And, around that time, like Ludacris was popular, Outkast was popular. So, I was really enthusiastic about, taking that journey because of Ludacris, really, like it was just like he was so animated with it, but he just said so many clever bars and lines that it really like created a picture in your head when you heard it. And so I just wanted to do that. I wanted to perform this kind of magic, so to speak. And so, I started doing that when I was around like 12, 13, 14. And so I recorded some songs then, and I was singing rap. So I was like kind of a pioneer with that as well. A lot of people didn't like sing very well and rap.
Yeah.
Like some people would sing somewhat, and then some people would rap, but so that kind of just took me different places. My uncle, he was my manager for a short term, and he introduced me to a lot of different artists in the Augusta, Georgia, and Columbia, South Carolina area. And so from that point, it just kind of went from there. I was on like different radio commercials and things like that, and then it just ended up to me actually being on the radio throughout the Southeast later on in my life when I turned 23. And from that point, just had some ups and downs in the music industry, and it kind of guided me to starting my own label. And so we're pretty much here. That's kind of like a synopsis of my journey.
Yeah. Well, I love the full recap because that gave a broad spectrum of really where, you're at to this point in time. So I definitely appreciate that as well. And I'd say it's almost hard. I feel like it's harder to give it up when you've been in it that long. You know what I mean? Because it sounds like for you were literally in it from the very beginning. So it's like this is something that you know very well. So it's kind of hard to even get out of that. Because like you said, you were going to do animation. You were going to kind of take a different path at one point. But it's like it was kind of just meant to be, I think. Because
it's always been ingrained in me, and I knew like I'm very spiritual. I'm not. And a lot of people made this statement famous, but I fully am this. I'm very spiritual. I'm not as much religious as I used to be. So therefore, in that context, I've always had a relationship with God and our Creator and our Maker. And so from that point, it was like I know people are giving their certain gifts. Like everybody has their one thing, that they are born to do. You know what I mean? Like, with this podcast, man, this is what you're born to do. You do a great job at it. I went back and listened to a lot of your shows, and this is something that's ingrained within you and something you were meant to do, and you're going to open the doors to a lot of things for people that they haven't seen. So like for me, that was music. It's like my even in church, like the spiritual the way that I can relay my spirit to others through singing, so that they can not only hear it but feel it, is been my gift.
Yeah.
And the blessing of being able to songwrite with that is that I can give my own message, or the message is given to me that gives people the thing they need to build themselves.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much, what I'm about with my music. Like, I do various genres, hip hop, R&B, pop, but there's always going to be like a couple of lines, maybe 3 or 4 lines sprinkled in there that's going to give you like self-confidence, just give you a purpose about, how you should live your life and things like that, So, that's kind of how I do it. And I've always known that part of my life. So it's kept me connected with music, and I know what I was, I didn't want to take my gift for granted. You know what I mean? Like, so
yeah,
I knew I was going to be a part of it. I just didn't think professionally I would pursue it.
Yeah. Being able to have an understanding for your calling is a huge thing, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's definitely something to be thankful for as well whenever you find that, because I feel like there's a lot of people that they might never find what their true calling is for one reason or another, whether it's not pursuing it or they just don't have the confidence in themselves, whatever. So it's definitely something to look back on it and say, that was a big deal, and be proud of that. And again, thank you for the kind words about myself as well. I do appreciate that. And I think that's all we can do is really just, try to push positivity and push inspiration as much as we can, especially when there's so much negativity out there as well. It's like that's our job as creatives is to, help people out and lift people up and give back to other people that might not have that platform. You know what I mean? So being able to do that is huge. And I think, too, even just being able to evoke emotion, you know what I mean? Especially in music, like our job is to make people feel something, you know what I mean? Whether it's sad, reflective, happy, joyful, whatever the feeling is, you got to feel something. Because I feel like if you're hearing a song and you're feeling nothing, well, that's probably not a very good song, is it? You know what I mean?
Right.
So you gotta feel something, even if you don't really like it. At least you're feeling something. If you feel nothing, it's like, well, that's probably not very compelling art at that point. So I like what you said about how you almost serve as the vessel for being able to do that through lyrics, through songwriting, and through just your tracks in general. And that kind of leads me to discussing your process, especially in songwriting, because you said you have that poetry background. So how does that work for you nowadays? Are you still writing, poems and then turning them into songs eventually? Or are you hearing certain chord progressions and beats and things like that and then kind of doing more traditional songwriting? Or is it just kind of random? Like, where do you think you find yourself now in your career compared to where you were, let's say, 10, 15 years ago?
Got you. That's a good question. That's a question I've never been asked before. But I mean, for me, it is a combination of things. I think I pull from everything around me. There's been times where I've written a song about something that I did not go through at all, but I was able to connect with the person that told me their story. And it was actually the producer of the song. They had a real life situation that just inspired them to make the beat, and they named it something particular. And so from that point, I was like, why did you name it this? And then so they told me, and they let me know about the whole situation. And so from that point, I was like, okay, cool. I have an idea for this song. And so I kind of write that fast now. Like it's kind of easy for me now, but like when I'm learning something, I'm very relentless about it. And then I have a great memory. So like I've always made good grades and stuff like that. So it's kind of been, a testament to just having a good memory to store all of that and then utilize it, when you need it. And so with that, I would at the beginning of my career or, as a youth, I would do it like that, write a lot of poems and then try to turn those poems into songs. And so eventually I just like switched it over to just writing as many songs as I could. And so it just built it's like Jordan. He would take 100 shots every day until like he started to make the majority of those shots or all of those shots. And it's something that when it came time to be a basketball game, it was just muscle memory. It wasn't like he had to think about it, as much. He just had to do it because he's already done it so many times. And that's how songwriting has evolved for me. Like there could be times where I could write something in like 2 minutes, and it's like, it's just something I do, but I do draw from things that either I'm going through, things I'm feeling, or just maybe the beat. Like it might not even always be that deep. It might just be like, all right, well, this is what feeling I get from hearing this song. This is what I think the mood of the song should be. So like, let me create a scenario in my head and visualize it. And then from that point, describe the what I'm visualizing and then make it rhyme, give it structure. It's kind of in that order, so like at the end I'm giving all of this that I just did before that structure and then it becomes a song.
Yeah. Well, you took the words right out of my mouth because I feel like I've said muscle memory on this show many, many times about like just the building the repetition, you know what I mean, and the good habits. And it's no different than when you're a producer making a lot of tracks, or even if you're an engineer. Like I feel like the more you mix tracks, that can help you as an engineer and help your ear and get better. So it really does go for like all professions. I feel like no matter what you're doing, the more you show up and just commit the time and be able to, sit there and do it and get better and better each day, then you can look back like 5 years from now and say, wow, look at all the progress that was made because I did that. You know what I mean? So for you, in that journey of songwriting, it feels like that is a big thing. So I'm curious to know as well, do you songwrite for other artists as well? Is that something you're doing alongside of writing your own stuff, or is that anything you ever thought about doing? Because I know a lot of artists that they do either just songwrite for other artists or they do a little bit of both. So is that something you've ever thought about doing?
I've done it. I've had other artists, make songs and put them out that I've written. As well, I've done songs that were not written by me. But I want to do more of the songwriting portion of it. I do like doing that a lot. I want to connect with artists that are looking for that, because nowadays everybody wants to be the one-trick pony. They want to do everything. So it isn't as easy to find people that, really want somebody to develop their sound and everything. And so I'm at Orpheus Sounds right now. I'm in the room called the Treehouse. This is our production room. And on the other side here is the engineering room with my engineer partner, Uzama, a.k.a. Uzi. We call him Uzi. So y'all can look up everything at orpheussound.com. But so he always says what you were saying earlier about the muscle memory and just doing things, to a certain. So he'll say it in the fashion of, well, this engineer needs to have 1,000 hours put in before they can say that they understand what they're grasping.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's that kind of thing with that. And it's the same thing I do with music, right? So, with songwriting, right? So what I do is he has a lot of people that come in and usually from out of the state that come in and record with them on a constant basis. And I do background vocals. So in the span of that, I'm teaching these artists how to have better presence in the studio, how to better songwrite, like how to have an idea complete before writing the song and then writing, like just little things like that. I went to Atlanta University, so I'm classically trained with vocal training. So, I've also did that too. I've trained a lot of artists on vocals and everything like that. So it is like a dream of mine to really like fully develop an artist, like to where, we help get their look right. We help their songs become that much better. I help them songwrite a hit, and that's something I really want to do. And then to work with more, industry artists as far as songwriting. Yes, yeah. I definitely have an interest to go deeper with it, but I've done it, I've done it throughout my lifetime.
Hey there, hope you're enjoying the episode so far. I just wanted to take a quick minute out to let you know about a couple different ways that you can support the podcast. One of the ways is by clicking that support the podcast button within your streaming platform. That is if you want to be a monthly supporter of the show. You can contribute either 99 cents, $5, or $10 a month. So that's the first way, and that's the more traditional way that we've had now for the last couple years. The other method that we actually just recently introduced is from our good friends over at Ko-fi. Ko-fi is a virtual tip jar. We have set our limit to a minimum of $10, but you can go make one-off donations. So if you visit ko-fi.com/the Proven Knowledge Podcast, you'll be able to donate. And all these different forms of donation go towards getting new guests every single week, getting potential sponsors on board to do giveaways, and overall just making the show better for you guys. So if you want to do that Ko-fi link, it's ko-fi.com/the Proven Knowledge Podcast. Otherwise, again, look for that support the podcast button in your streaming platform if you'd like to be a monthly supporter. And I just want to say thank you guys for your contributions. And without further ado, let's get back into the episode. Because I definitely know a lot of people that have done both, and they have definitely different experiences. But I feel like it almost helps when you're writing for someone else and you can put yourself in their shoes. And like you said earlier, almost tell their story in the way that they would intend to. I feel like you almost learn a lot about yourself as an artist then, and then when you come back to your own material, it almost gives you a new perspective, you know what I mean? And then you can kind of like recharge and refuel your own work as well. Yeah. So that's definitely incredible. That's definitely incredible for sure. And I know you just released a single called Aquaman recently. So tell us about that one, and tell us like what, if you can reveal anything, what is kind of the next thing you're going to be working on or dropping here, very soon. I know the summertime is approaching. Is there anything that you can reveal that you got coming up as well?
Yeah, definitely, man. One thing I've been doing for the year 2025 is releasing a song every single for this month or for each month. So for this month, for last month, excuse me, that was February. So Aquaman was the single for February. The first month, January, was Stay in Their Head. And so I am releasing one for March. It has been pushed back due to, a couple things. It's an Atmos. It's the first song that's in Atmos. And are you familiar with Atmos?
Yeah, the Dolby sound, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So Atmos is just giving it like an extra emphasis of surround sound that, is much more detailed. I mean, people can like make it to where it sounds like somebody's walking right beside you when the speakers are calibrated the right way. So, this is the first time I've done a song in Atmos. And so the new song that I'm releasing is going to be, no, I'm not going to tell the name of it. I was about to say the name of it, but it's coming out. I just want everybody to be on the lookout. Every month I'm doing something. The whole goal is just to show my diversity, man. I got a hip-hop song I started off with and an R&B song that was next. This one's going to be another hip-hop, but it's like the first one was kind of like the gangster hip-hop. This hip-hop is more of like the boom bap, like, like I would say J. Cole or Nas or something like that in that type of arena. So, I will say, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and say it. You're going to be the first place to hear this. This is the new song is called Trillionaire. And it's all about motivation. It's one of those songs that I want people to think about when they're waking up in the morning. It's actually my alarm clock. So it's about, being motivated, starting from a place that you were doubted. People didn't see what your vision was for yourself, and so they doubted that you could achieve that. And so through time, I just persevered and kept persevering until I got to that point to where it became easy to me to flourish. And it's not all about money. It's more so about the point of flourishing and doing that in a way that nothing can penetrate your mindset of continuing to flourish. As life does, life hands us different things that may discourage us from time to time. And that's just a point, that's a part of human life experience. These things are to make us greater. These things, you don't get greater without adversity. You know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't know that there is danger if you didn't hurt yourself in the first place. So, in that same standpoint, that is a part of life, but there is a certain point to where you can like kind of weed out how that affects your mood and get to a point to where you're thriving on a constant basis and just keeping that going. So that's what Trillionaire is more so about. Well, and also about money, because I like to invest. I invest in stocks and crypto and all of that. So at the same standpoint, it is for those type of people too that want to invest their money and put it in good places and want to feel good about it. So that's what this song is geared for. And then I'm gonna have another song later in the year that's for the ladies to shake and groove. The song behind the song is EDM song that'll be a remix to a song I dropped a long time ago. So everybody that knows me, be on the lookout for that. And just throughout the year, you're just going to see more and more unravel from me with these singles. And then next year, I'll drop an album to sum it all up and just show, kind of the height of, I ain't even going to say the height, because, we're not going to claim a ceiling. But, just a high tier of what I've done, what I can do. Some things I've just held back that I didn't feel like I didn't have a good enough studio to be able to do this, or I didn't have this kind of sound I needed for this. Like, now that I've gotten back into doing, a lot more production, I've been able to be hands-on, pick things from here, pick things from there, be real meticulous with how I create this album. So, this album is going to be fire. You know what I mean? So, at the end of the day, man, I just I want everybody to enjoy it, man, and just spread the word. Like when you see Christou, just let somebody else know about Christou. Just one person. If each person does that, we in a better place. Yeah. So just you let one person know about Christou, and so they can enjoy, the self-reflecting music as well.
The power of word of mouth, such a big thing. You know what I mean? Being able to have that. And it sounds like there's going to be a lot of versatility in the music, especially in the next few months with those singles. So definitely excited to hear, man. And like we said earlier, just being able to positively affect people and make them feel something, whatever that is. So definitely looking forward to it. And even outside of music, like I said earlier, about kind of recharging creatively, but let's say outside the creative world, just on the day-to-day, what do you think you've been doing recently to, take your mind off of creativity to be able to come back and make better music and do, more? Could be a hobby, could be, just anything else you got going on that has kind of been helping you, like you said, thrive, live better, and just, live an abundant life recently.
What can I say that? See, I do so much, man. I'm like, I'm known in my community, and then I can build things, so and work on houses and things like that. So I am always doing something. I have a wife and 3 kids, so I think I would say that, like, just being at home with them and getting to just spend time with them, that it doesn't have a deadline, or what I mean? Like, it's not, you're not worrying about, like having to do something within this time. It's like, it's really like almost doing nothing and enjoying my family is like the thing I do to kind of breathe, relax. And it's something one of my cousins and mentors, like, she really, just kind of pushed that within me. She was like, no, you need to take time for yourself. Like, you're not taking enough time for yourself. And I'm like, well, there's always something to do, so I didn't want to, but you need that. And I didn't realize how important it was until I started doing it. Yeah. And so I think that's like, there'll be certain days that, like, I do have something to do, but I'll be like, nah, I need this day. Like, I'm feeling this. I'm feeling anxiety. This is going on personally. So I need this day. And, so I'll take that day more often. I do that in seasons, so that I don't become stagnant. I think that's very important, is just to understand how to balance things. So I try to balance that as much as possible so that I'm not, doing it too much and, not getting back to what's in, not in what's important, but what is going to finance you, or, just to do all this other stuff. So, that's pretty much what I do, is just enjoy family, maybe take a road trip. We like going to the beach. That's the advantage of South Carolina. We have mountains over here and beach over there. So, you can kind of go and do that. Me and my wife, we go to trail walks that lead to waterfalls. So that's pretty cool. Little Bradley, that's in between South Carolina and North Carolina. So, that's kind of one of our things that we do as well. We collect gems, crystals, rocks, minerals, different things like that. And we teach our boys about that. We teach them, how they're made and things like that. So I think it's those things that, finding those things. I think the real important message is, like, find that thing that gives you the breath to release. Yeah. Even if it's meditation, I do that. So.
Yeah, being able to.
I answered that well.
No,
I'm
that's
sorry
great.
If I went all over the place.
No, that's exactly what I honestly had in mind, for sure. It's just being able to kind of check in with yourself. You know what I mean? Because I feel like, especially when we're working on a lot of other people's projects or even our own projects, we got deadlines to meet, or we're trying to help other people, but it's like we got to help ourselves every once in a while too, and kind of give back and replenish our. It's like, what do they say about if you're spending all time filling up someone else's cup, your cup's going to be empty eventually. So you got to fill your own cup up as well from time to time. And like you said, still keeping, your loved ones in mind as well during that is a big thing too. So that's great to hear, man. It's great to hear you have a lot of things to be able to do as well, on top of creating and doing all the awesome things you're doing right now. Yeah, for sure, man. And we're down to the last few questions here. These are ones I ask on every episode. The first one is, if you can go back 10 years ago and give yourself any piece of advice at all, or maybe not change anything at all, what do you think you would do?
I'm kind of the guy that I used to be the guy that I would have changed this, but it's like so many things happen out of those moments that you really would have changed because of emotion, how it made you feel emotionally. But if you disattach yourself from the emotion and look into and ask yourself, like, what did I gain out of that moment? Like, did I gain anything? And sometimes it'd be like, if you were a boxer and you lost a boxing match. Well, the next boxing match you probably gonna win because you just move that much faster because you don't want to lose. Like, you remember the losing experience and it puts you on your toes to become the better version of yourself. So it's hard to say that I would change anything. There's some things I would like to say I change, but not. I think that they're so significant to who I am now that I don't think, because it was a time I had an opportunity when I was about 12 to sign to J Records. They're not a record label anymore, but they were a record label, and I made like my first D ever. On my report card, and my mom was like livid about that, and so she was like, "No, if you can't make good grades, then you can't go to this meeting." And so I didn't go to the meeting, and I regretted that for so many years. But then looking back at, the negative side, the dark side of the industry, and the things that happen, especially to young artists that don't know what's really going on or haven't even, lived life as an adult yet, then, I could have been heavily taken advantage of and used as a puppet for someone else's pleasure. It's so many things that could have went a different way that I may have thought, oh, well, I'd be the top artist on earth right now. But then, at what expense? Like, do I enjoy my life at this point? Like, people have their idea of what that life is like, but being someone that's known by everybody is very scary and is dangerous. Like, the fame I've had is like more so southeast region of the United States, Kenya, Greece, and Canada, and a little bit of Southern California. So that's like the broadest aspect of my fan base as far as like who supports me the most. So going to those places and knowing people know me by face and name, and seeing my social media and stuff like that, it makes it a little dangerous, or it just makes you feel a little vulnerable to like what someone can do or what they're wanting to do or trying to, how they're trying to deceive you or anything like that. So, at a certain point, some things we ask for, we really don't want that. Like, we want the happiness that we think it would give us, and then we get the happiness that we, in our lifetime that we thought we wanted at this point, and it's like, I could have did without that. You know what I mean? Like, having this like subtle fame and being able to enjoy my life as a father and husband is like, I wouldn't trade that, for anything. So I think, to sum up, the answer to that question is, I don't think it's much I would change.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like what you said too about kind of the losses. It's almost like you got to look at your losses as lessons too. And if you learn something from it, then that's all that matters, because you can take that and then apply it to your life at later points too, when you go through something similar, and you know how to deal with it better too.
Think about this. Spider-Man was bit by a poisonous radioactive spider, you know what I mean? And then it made him a superhero. Like, nobody wants to be bitten by, like, you hear the story and it's like, oh, I want to be bitten by that spider. That spider, give me that spider. But like in reality, like, nobody wants to be bitten by a spider, and then they have these things that you can't control, and you have to relearn yourself. And it's just so many things that people think they want until you just realize, like, no, that loss actually was a great thing for you. Like, it was a treasure. You know, you looking at it as trash, but it was actually a treasure that shaped you to be who you are.
Yeah, I think that one's kind of a wild analogy too, because like think about all the different responsibilities he had to take in then because he had the powers. You know what I mean? So you don't think about that either.
But right, really. With great power
comes great responsibility.
Yep. Uncle Ben was like, he was Nostradamus with that one. Like, that was a great comment.
For sure, because that's the thing. You just don't know until you know, until you're there, and then you got to deal with it in real time. But that's I like that analogy for sure. And if we flip it then and we say 10 years from now, where do you think you kind of envision yourself musically? I know you said you want to do more artist development eventually and work with more artists. So I know that's a goal. Is there anything else in 10 years that you see yourself doing?
Sync licensing. I love, I've had a movie. There's a movie on Amazon Prime called Party Hard, and that has my song Magic School Bus in it. So, I want to do more of that. I definitely would like to see myself in more commercials. I've done it on radio, so I want to do it on TV. So, that's one of the things I see myself doing. I envision that, and I also envision just a lot more travel globally. Like I definitely see myself traveling a lot more. My wife, she's a licensed cosmetologist, and she has a hair growth product that has been working for people for the last, how long we had it? Maybe 5 years. Yeah. So 2020. Yeah. So we definitely see that scaling up and growing. We've been taking our time with it. Like, a lot of people have been trying to get us to move fast with it, but we've been just taking our time, learning everything, and it's been a slow process, but it's also been something that we've been like building it brick by brick instead of with straw. You know what I mean? Like, we don't want nothing to blow our house down. So I definitely see that being a great success for us as well. Her products are named Lovely. We'll have the site finished before the year's out. And everyone will be able to purchase from Lovely Beauty products. But it's real awesome to do that as well, because it's a different side of things to where music is more subjective, and it's like people have to want what you're giving. Like, it's not necessarily a need or a thing that you need, but whereas this thing with our beauty products is something people use daily. And so it just kind of, it's a mindset. Like you were saying earlier, it's like, you kind of have these things that you didn't see that you were going to do, and then it just like kind of like through, been thrown upon you, and now it's like, oh, okay, like I can do this, and I see another part of my vision unlock and unfold, like playing Super Mario. You've unlocked another level, and so I think this is that, just as Rihanna has Fenty, Beyonce has, what is hers called? Sacred. They have their products, I think this will correlate with, the things that me and my family as a unit have going on. And that's pretty much what I see for the next 10 years is us just moving in that direction, traveling and thriving, man.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's going to open a lot more paths that you don't even know at this time either, So you never know.
Right. It's kind of like, it's like a Wizard of Oz blanket over the Oz. You see them right there, but then when you open it up, it's like, there's a whole system to this thing. It's not just magic. Like, it's a real system to this thing, and there's other things that can come from this. And so, it's kind of how I feel about it as well. It's like, you don't know what's coming from it, but it is something, and it's an exciting journey, man.
A lot more possibilities out there. Absolutely. For sure.
Yes.
And before we get out of here, do you have any final words of wisdom for the listeners?
Words of wisdom. Okay, let me get a quick download. Words of wisdom. All right, so I feel like a lot of people are in a place of a lack of social identity and self-identity. So they're trying to find themselves within the context of how things move today. It doesn't move the way things moved in the 90s. This is a new day. There's a lot of different factors, AI, all of these things. We had a reset with the COVID and everything. So it's just like a new way the world is moving, and a lot of people are trying to find themselves and navigate, whether they're old or young. So in the standpoint of that, I would say to trust yourself, trust that everything that you went through up to now has had a purpose in your life. Like, even though it's negative, it still has a purpose. And understand that. Don't let it be a reflection of who you are, because it's not a reflection of who you are. It's, if anything, something happening to you is a good sign. Yeah. It's a sign that energies care so much about you to interact with you. Mm-hmm. You don't live a life lonely and just of boredom, complete boredom, and nothing happening. So it's a blessing, even though there may be negative things or things that are happening to you. It is not a reflection of who you are. It's not saying that you're a bad person and you deserve bad things to happen to you. It's saying you're a good person, and I want these things to happen to you to the point that you see yourself. Yeah. That you see who you are, that you see what your purpose is, that you see what makes you happy. I think that's just kind of the message of even what the Bible or even what Buddhism talks about, even with just different religions, they always, they always give these messages about self, but they're overshadowed by the reverence of an outside entity, a God, a prophet or whatever. It's always overshadowed by that, and the importance is placed on that. But all of this is for you. It's for you to understand. It's for you to exist. It's for you to stay alive and grow and prosper. So, don't take any of that as a reflection on you. Definitely when you're looking at what you're facing in life, you just don't take it as a character flaw. Don't take it as a punishment. Take it as you're being sharpened like a sword. It takes a lot of turbulence. It takes a lot of, rough edges and things to sharpen a sword. Iron does sharpen iron, and it's tough. It's not a smooth experience. It's not like getting a back massage, Mm-hmm. So at that same standpoint, understand these things are all to make you better. And sometimes they'll repeat themselves just so that you get the true message of what you were supposed to get from those moments. So always stay encouraged. Feel blessed about, whatever you're going through. Feel blessed that life is giving you experiences that are just making you to be an even better vessel beyond this life and even within this life. So, that's the message I want to give to everybody, man. Just stay in touch with me. I definitely give a lot of good advice. I'm gonna have some stuff coming up on my YouTube. It's at Christou DaKeeng on everything. That's ChristoudDaKeeng. I put Keen and King to let people know I am intelligent, and Christ and Christou to let people know I have a message. So at the end of the day, you know what I mean? Just follow me, and I have more advice like this, and I'll have definitely some great music.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm going to have to tap in on the other platforms as well, for sure, because I know I'm only tapped in on Instagram right now, so I'm going to have to go over to YouTube especially and check out what you got going on. But I like everything you just said, man, especially about like not staying stagnant. And it shows that you keep on moving, through the ups and downs. And I think that's something that you're doing very well, man. And I got to say again, thanks for stopping by today, taking the time out. And I'm happy we got to have this chat. And I'm definitely going to be checking out the new songs coming out very soon. And just keep up the good work, man. Keep up what you're doing. And I thank Dom for getting us in touch. And we're definitely going to have another chat soon. I'm sure of that. So if you ever want to come back here, man, just let me know.
Man, anytime you want to have me, I don't care how big I get, how small I get, it doesn't matter. I definitely vibe with you very well, and I appreciate this opportunity, man. So, anything you need from me too, man. I do production, so if you need something on the music track, just holler at me, and I'll send you my link once I upload all my music to ChristouDaKeeng.com. I'm gonna send you my link, and so you can pick some out for yourself. And I make all genres, so if you have anything in particular in mind, just reach out to me, man. I definitely want to work with you, so I appreciate you, man.
Right.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys, for listening today. That was episode 254. We'll be back this time next week. As always, make sure to hit that support button on your podcast streaming platform if you'd like to send us any funds. Be sure to tune in every Tuesday night, twitch.tv/AnthonyChurch24 for more in-depth and exclusive content. But until next week, we will see you then. Thanks as always for listening.